Good morning. So I'm excited today, taking out for the second time the Adios Pro 3s. I wore these once so far and they really impressed me. These are probably going to be my shoe for the New York City Marathon in a few weeks. So today I'm going to do a little bit of a warm-up and then probably about 10 miles at marathon goal pace to see how the shoes feel and try and hold that pace, see what kind of effort it takes. But the first time that I wore these, I was very impressed. They basically are a supersized Takumi Sen 8. They have a very similar cellar mesh upper. They have the carbon rods in them. This time it's carbon infused rather than the plastic rods that are in the Sen, so it's definitely a stiffer shoe, but not as stiff as some of the other carbon plate shoes. They also have a much thicker stack height of that Light Strike Pro, so it really feels a whole lot different than the Takumi Sen does. So even though it's the same compound, it's a much different feeling underfoot. So let's get this going and we'll check in soon. In a men's size 12, the Adios Pro 3 comes in at 9.24 ounces or 262 grams. There are 39.5 millimeters of stack in the heel and 33 millimeters in the forefoot for a 6.5 millimeter drop. 2 layers of Light Strike Pro foam wrap around Energy Rods 2.0 to provide smooth transitions and a snappy toe off. There's a lightweight breathable cellar mesh upper that's also resistant to water, and a grippy Continental rubber outsole. Adidas calls this shoe the ultimate long-distance road racing shoe. So that's 9 miles down at attempted marathon goal pace in the Adios Pro 3. One word to describe these shoes is smooth. They really have a nice wide forefoot. So when you're landing on the midfoot, the forefoot, it's a nice wide base to land on. And I compared the squish and rebound on the Takumi Sen to a racquetball. I would say with these shoes, it's more of a tennis ball. And what I mean by that is tennis ball, you can squeeze it and push it in, but it comes back to shape very quickly. And it's still a pretty bouncy ball. So that's kind of the way these shoes feel. When you land on that midfoot, you get a nice sensation of squishing in, but really not that much. It's much more responsive than fuel cell foam. So I'm getting a little bit of sink in, but almost an immediate rebound. And these shoes really propel you onto your toes. So after you get that little bit of squish in, it rebounds you forward to a nice toe spring. Also, the heel is soft, but not too soft that you're sinking in. When I wore the New Balance RC Elites the other day, those ones I really felt like I was stepping in quicksand almost. Very comfortable, but sinking in too much, harder to pick my feet up. These ones with that more responsive foam really let you roll through your stride a lot better. So you're able to land on that midfoot, get a little bit of a nice assistant bounce that rolls forward, and it really gives you a nice toe spring off the toe. So these, once you dial in that pace, you just roll along, and it really rewards that midfoot strike, midfoot to forefoot, rolling right to the toe. So it feels very assistant, very comfortable. Also, this shoe is wider in the heel than the Vaporfly and the Alpha Fly, so I'm feeling much more stable in it. I'm not really worried about pronating while wearing this shoe. This shoe definitely runs a little bit long, but that actually means in a size 12, it actually fits me. You can see where my toe is in there. I've got ends right about here, so right up to the toe bumper. So it's actually the perfect length in a 12. So I normally would go for a 12 and a half. In this shoe, I got a 12, and that's actually the right size. You can see cutout here on the side. There's a cutout on the front. This part right here really wraps your foot underneath the laces. A little bit of a cutout on the side there as well. So we have a winner for what shoe am I wearing for the New York City Marathon 2022. And it is the longest named shoe, the Adidas Adizero Adios Pro 3. This I just recently wore for the Suffolk County Half Marathon. I was very happy with the performance during the race. So I'll go into some of the details of this shoe. Starting off with the upper. You can see it has that very thin cellar mesh upper. Water just wants to go right through this. It's really not going to retain any type of dampness. There's a very thin tongue here. It is non-gusseted. However, the laces run through it to kind of hold it in place. And once you get it on top of your foot and lace it down, it's really not going anywhere. I find this kind of similar to the tongue in the Takumi Sen. Also very thin and perforated, where you could have some pressure on top of your foot, but also similar to the Sen. I'm getting a very good lockdown from the wrap in the midfoot and the way my heel sits in here, so I'm not having to tie it all that tight. I didn't feel pressure that was uncomfortable when I did that half marathon the other day. There's also some bumper pads on the inside here of the heel. Instead of a pull tab, you have a little piece of fabric that you can stick up like an elf hat and then pull that down. I don't really need that to get my foot into the shoe. Didn't have any issue with that. It is a very narrow shoe. Adidas shoes tend to run narrow and a little bit long. So this one, I actually got it in a size 12 and ended up being the perfect length for me. My toe ends up ending before the toe bumper, pretty much right there, which is about how much space I want in a shoe. So I didn't have to go up to a 12 and a half. So this is one where it might make sense if you usually do a half size up to maybe go true to size with this one, since the Adidas shoes tend to run a little bit narrow in the toe and a little bit long. I find that the fit of Adidas really does seem to work well for me though. I don't have a wide foot. I don't have an incredibly narrow foot. I think I have kind of a normal size foot, but the Adidas shoes just tend to wrap it really nice. So I really wasn't thinking about the upper much, during the run. This is a very geometric shoe. Kind of reminds me of like a Lamborghini, the way it's all cut all crazy. Also the color scheme might have something to do with that. They have also the way that this goes up in the heel. I feel like this helps to hold the heel, and this part here helps to hold your forefoot. They have a lot of cutouts in this midsole. There's one here on the bottom, similar to the Takumi Sen. They cut out this part here, and then there's a bit of a ledge here. There's actually a little bit of a plasticky piece right here to give a little bit more stability to the heel. And this has a full Continental rubber outsole. It's a little bit thicker rubber here at the front for the toe off. And this rubber here is almost smooth to the touch, but it's almost like a tire on a race car, where it doesn't have a lot of grooves, but for some reason is very, very grippy. So these shoes have excellent traction. And this has Energy Rods 2.0, which kind of looks like a pretzel. Basically, there's rods in there for each toe that goes down to here, and then it kind of loops around in the back in the heel. With the previous model of the Adios Pro, they had a separate plate in the heel, and then the rods just went from the midfoot to the forefoot. So now they've integrated that into one unit, and then just have the foam on top and on bottom of it to have that contained as one piece. So I find this is a very stiff shoe, but it feels great. Like the rocker in this is excellent. You land on your midfoot. It has a nice wide midfoot, and it really makes you kind of explode onto your toes. So it feels very propulsive. It's cushioned, but it's not too soft. Something I think is kind of interesting, I like the midfoot of the RC Elite a lot. And if you look at this, it's almost exactly the same. They both have a kind of wide footprint in the midfoot there. RC Elite's a little bit wider in the heel. But again, that's so compressive, the foam really sinks in too much for me, and this shoe doesn't have the stiffness. It's easy to bend, so it doesn't have as much explosion, as much toe off as this one does, which is much harder to bend. So this doesn't feel uncomfortably stiff. It uses the stiffness as a lever, so I find that works really well with this shoe. Before we get completely to the end this time, like and subscribe. Just wanted to kind of say how this fits in with some of these other options here. I have these actually in weight order, this being the lightest shoe, followed by the Saucony Endorphin Pro. This is the Asics Metaspeed Sky, then the Vaporfly, and then the Adidas comes after that. Then both the New Balance and the Alpha Fly are heavier than the Adidas shoe. These ones kind of fit into the category of having that really high stack. So this is actually the lightest of these really high stack carbon shoes. This is really the stiffest of any of these shoes. This one's also very stiff. It's a little bit lower stack than some of these other ones. The Vaporfly, again, as I've said, is still my favorite speed shoe. I think this is the fastest shoe of all this group. But again, my issue with it, having that really narrow midfoot, I feel that I overpronate too much in it in a longer race. As long as I'm running strong and running on my toes, this is a really great shoe. but over those longer distances, I want some more stability. So that's what I was looking for, and that's what I got from the Adidas shoe. So I really think of all these, this actually has the closest kind of feeling to the Vaporfly, where it really, even when you're standing in it, feels like you're leaning forward. You want to go forward. You want to go faster. This is a little bit more streamlined, a little bit more trimmed down. So I would definitely still use this for 5Ks and 10Ks. This one's really more that maximalist type of shoe where it has that thick stack. It's more of a cruiser, where like half marathon, marathon pace, I feel like that's what that's designed for and what it does really, really well. So buy it, wait, or second rate. I think you can tell from the review, this is definitely a buy it. This shoe is $250. They actually increased the price from the previous model, which is not a great thing. Although recently this has been on sale. I saw it for $175, and I've seen it on sale at a few other places as well. So it's a premium price super shoe. That's kind of what you're getting these days. The price range of these ranges from $225 to $275. Now the craziest one is the new Prime X Strung. That one's $300. That's the first time I've seen one reach $300. So this is going to be my choice for the New York City Marathon. It's my favorite long distance racing shoe that I've ever tried, and it's great. I'll see you in the next one.